I always thought the hardest part of losing my husband would be the silence, but I was wrong. The hardest part was realizing the people I trusted most were hiding something from me. On the morning of Elijah's funeral, I stood there feeling like a ghost in my own life. My son, Daniel, and my daughter-in-law, Melissa, were running everything, talking to the pastor, arranging the flowers, telling people where to sit, while I stood in a corner like a guest at my own tragedy. "Mom, don't stress," Daniel whispered, patting my arm like I was a fragile patient. "You just sit. We'll handle everything." I wanted to tell him I wasn't broken. I wasn't confused. I was just grieving. But the words froze inside me. The service was a blur, faces I barely recognized, people crying louder for my husband than I could even manage. Elijah had been gone only 3 days, and it still didn't feel real. One moment he was laughing with me over coffee. The next he was on the garage floor, and I was dialing 911 with shaking hands. I thought the nightmare was over once we buried him. But the truth was just beginning to unravel. After the funeral, everyone came back to our home, my home, the one Elijah and I built over 40 years. But Melissa walked around like she owned it, straightening picture frames, directing people, even telling me when I should go lie down. "Lena, sweetheart, why don't you rest a little?" she murmured as if I were a child. "I'm fine," I said, even though my voice trembled. A moment later, Daniel sat across from me with that heavy sigh he uses when he has already made a decision for me. "Mom, we've been talking. This house is too big for you now. Maybe it's time to consider a senior place. Somewhere safe." A senior place? My heart dropped. This was my home. My life. My memories. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. Daniel didn't argue, but the look he shared with Melissa chilled me. Something was wrong. And that's when the house phone rang. Daniel picked it up in the kitchen. His tone changed, sharper, irritated. When he returned, he said, "It was Dad's office. They want to discuss paperwork. Nothing important." But the next sentence told me everything I needed to know. I told them, "You're not in a good state to talk. I'll handle it." Not in a good state? A spark lit inside me. That night, alone in my bedroom, my cell phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mrs. Odom," a man's voice said. "I'm Mr. Hayes, your husband's boss. You need to come to my office tomorrow morning. There's something you must see." My breath caught. "What is this about?" "It concerns the last months of Elijah's life," he said quietly. "And please, do not tell your son or daughter-in-law you're coming." My heart froze. Why? Why couldn't I tell them? What were they hiding? What my husband's boss revealed the next morning shook my entire world, and proved Elijah was trying to warn me all along. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake listening to the house settle, every floorboard, every soft creak, wondering how many of those sounds my husband heard in his final days. Morning came heavy and cold. I left before Daniel and Melissa woke up, moving quietly like a thief in my own home. I didn't leave a note. They didn't deserve one. The drive to Elijah's office felt strange, like stepping back into someone else's life. He had worked there for 18 years, and yet I barely visited. We were both creatures of routine. He handled work, I handled home. I thought that was partnership. Now I wasn't so sure. When I stepped inside the building, a young woman at the front desk looked up with surprise and pity, the kind of expression people give widows. "Mrs. Odom, Mr. Hayes is expecting you," she said softly. I followed her down the hall to a glass-walled corner office. Inside, a tall man with graying hair stood from his desk. "Lena," he said gently, "I'm so sorry for your loss." He pulled out a chair for me, but my hands were shaking too much to sit. "Your message. You said there was something I needed to see," I said quietly. He nodded and walked toward a cabinet. He pulled out a medium-sized black bag, worn around the edges, with my husband's initials stitched inside. "EO." My breath caught. This was Elijah's? "Yes," he said. "He kept it under his desk. He asked me to give it to you. Only if something ever happened to him." Something inside me cracked. He never told me about it. Mr. Hayes sighed. "Lena, the last few months, Elijah wasn't himself. He came in early, stayed late, worked weekends. We all thought it was stress. But..." His eyes lowered. I think he knew something was wrong. I finally sat down. My fingers brushed across the zipper of the bag. Inside were papers, stacks of them. Folders. Receipts. Photocopies. My husband's handwriting everywhere. And a small, red leather notebook. What is all this? I whispered. Mr. Hayes looked at me with a seriousness that made my stomach twist. Elijah believed someone close to him was trying to take advantage of you, he said softly. He said he saw things at home that didn't sit right. Conversations. Decisions being made without you. Money going missing. I froze. My blood ran cold. He was investigating something? Mr. Hayes nodded. Yes. And he told me, if anything ever happened to him, you might be in danger. My heart slammed against my chest. Danger? From who? My own son? My own daughter-in-law? I opened the notebook with trembling hands. The first page held a sentence written in Elijah's shaky handwriting. Lena, if you're reading this, I couldn't protect you in time. My vision blurred. Tears hit the paper like rain. Mr. Hayes stepped closer. There's more. He left you a final message. But I think you should read it alone. I clutched the notebook to my chest like it was my husband's heartbeat. Like he was still here, still trying to shield me. As I walked out of the office, the weight of the bag felt unbearable, but not as heavy as the truth waiting inside it. Because inside that notebook, Elijah had written the name of the person he feared most, and it wasn't who I expected. I sat in my car holding the notebook like it was made of glass. My husband's handwriting. Shaky, uneven, desperate. It felt like he was reaching out from beyond the grave, trying to warn me. For a long moment, I couldn't bring myself to open it. What if the truth inside was worse than the lies I'd feared? Finally, with a breath that trembled through my whole body, I flipped the page. The first full line hit me like a punch. I no longer trust Melissa. Melissa. My daughter-in-law. The woman who told me what to eat, when to rest, how to feel. The woman who planned my husband's funeral like it was a chore. My hands shook as I read deeper. Lena, she has been accessing our accounts. I confronted her once, she said Daniel told her it was fine. But I don't believe him. My stomach twisted. Why would Daniel let Melissa access our money? Why would he keep that from me? I turned the page. She wants us to move out. She said you're too unstable to live alone. I'm afraid they're planning something. And I don't know how to stop them yet. Unstable. The same word Daniel used at the funeral. I clapped a hand over my mouth. My own children. The ones I raised with love. Had they really been discussing a future where I was pushed aside? I read on, tears sliding silently down my cheeks. If anything happens to me, they'll convince you you're helpless. Don't believe them. You're stronger than they want you to think. My breath caught. He knew. Somehow, he knew. I turned the next page, this one filled with numbers, dates, withdrawals from our joint account that I never authorized. Melissa's handwriting appeared twice on small sticky notes. One said transfer before she checks. The other said Daniel approves. My heart pounded like it wanted to break free. I grabbed my phone and dialed Daniel's number, ready to demand answers. But halfway through the call, I stopped. What if Elijah was right? What if Gabriel wasn't the one making the decisions? What if Melissa was manipulating him the entire time? My head spun. I drove home slowly, gripping the notebook so tightly my knuckles turned white. When I pulled into the driveway, Melissa was already outside, arms crossed, eyes sharp, like she had been waiting for me. Where did you go? She demanded. Her tone wasn't concern. It was control. Possession. Fear. Something inside me hardened. I went to Elijah's office, I said calmly. Her face went pale. Just for a second. But I saw it. And that one flicker told me everything I needed to know. She already knew what I had found. And that night, when I opened Elijah's bag again, I found a second notebook he had hidden, one that revealed the real reason he feared Melissa. And the shocking truth about the day he died. That evening, I locked myself in my bedroom, the first time I ever locked a door in my own home. I set Elijah's bag on the bed and unzipped it slowly. Inside, beneath stacks of papers and folders, my fingers brushed something small and hard, a second notebook. Black. Thin. Hidden underneath everything else. My heart caught in my throat. Why would he hide one notebook deeper than the first? I opened it, expecting numbers and notes. But instead, the first page made my blood run cold. If anything happens to me, Lena, don't believe it was an accident. My breath hitched. I read the line again, hands trembling. Accident. But Elijah's death had been ruled sudden cardiac arrest. No suspicion. No investigation. Nothing unusual. I turned the page. I'm worried about how much control Melissa is gaining over Daniel. He listens to her more than he listens to me. She's been pushing him to talk about our house, our savings, your future. And not in ways that protect you. 2 weeks ago, I confronted her. She threatened to put you in a care home. When I told her I would never allow that, her expression changed. Cold. Calculated. My stomach twisted. I remembered Melissa at the funeral telling me to rest, to trust them, calling me fragile. I turned the next page. Last week, I found her in my office at home. She had my medical files in her hand. She said she was just cleaning. But she looked startled. Medical files? My pulse raced. What was she doing with his medical papers? The next page held the line that made my knees feel weak. Lena, I think she's waiting for something to happen to me. And if it does, check the medicine cabinet. My eyes widened. The medicine cabinet. What did he mean? What was in there? What had he seen? Before I could read further, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door. Slow. Heavy. Stopping right in front of me. I froze. A soft knock. Lena? Melissa's voice. Too sweet. Too careful. I made dinner, she said gently. Why don't you come eat? You must be starving. I clutched the notebook to my chest. No, thank you, I called, forcing my voice to stay steady. A pause. Then her tone shifted, a sharpness creeping in. What were you doing at Elijah's office today? She asked. My breath caught. She knew. I didn't answer. After a long silence, her footsteps slowly moved away. My hands shook violently as I turned back to the notebook. On the next page, Elijah had written, if I don't make it, she will try to control Lena. Check my medications. Something feels wrong. Tears blurred my vision. Wrong? What did he mean? I grabbed my phone, heart pounding, ready to call someone, anyone, for help. But then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A text notification from my bank. Account accessed. My account. Not Elijah's. Not ours. Mine. And the access came from somewhere inside the house. My hands trembled as I realized someone wasn't just trying to control my life. They were trying to erase my future. And I had only one night left to uncover the truth. My hands shook as I stared at the bank alert. Someone in the house had accessed my account. At the same moment I was reading Elijah's warnings. I grabbed the second notebook and slipped it under my sweater. Whatever was happening, I couldn't stay still. I needed answers. I walked quietly down the hallway toward the bathroom, the one Elijah had written about. The house felt different now. Every shadow felt suspicious. Every corner felt watched. I opened the cabinet slowly. Inside were Elijah's pill bottles, lined up exactly the way I remembered. But one bottle, one I had never seen before, was stuck behind the others. A small white container. No pharmacy label. No prescription name. Just a handwritten sticker. Vitamins. My heart dropped. Elijah never took vitamins. He hated pills. Hands trembling, I opened it. Inside were small blue tablets. I didn't know what they were, but I knew they weren't vitamins. My breath caught. A sound behind me made me jump. The door creaked open. Melissa stood there, arms crossed, blocking the doorway. Her eyes cold. Her smile thin. What are you doing, Lena? She asked softly. Too softly. I swallowed hard. These aren't vitamins. What did you? She stepped closer. Oh, don't be dramatic, she said. Elijah was stressed. I gave him supplements. He died, I whispered. 3 days later. Her smile twitched. Accidents happen. My entire body went cold. I stepped back, clutching the bottle behind me. She took a slow step forward, voice lowering. You shouldn't go through things you don't understand. Daniel worries about you. We both do. There it was. The truth hiding behind every smile, every suggestion, every rest, sweetheart. Control. Not care. I forced myself to stay calm. You accessed my account, I said. It wasn't a question. Her face didn't even flicker. Well, she said calmly, someone needs to handle things while you're emotional. I stared at her. You think I don't know what you're doing? You pushed Elijah. You threatened him. You wanted this house. My savings. My life. She shrugged. You're lonely. Tired. Confused. People your age need guidance. Something inside me snapped. My age didn't stop me from being married for 40 years, I said, voice steady. It won't stop me from protecting myself now. I stepped past her, slow, controlled, refusing to let her see my fear. She didn't stop me. She didn't have to, because she thought she had already won. But she didn't know about the notebook hidden under my sweater, or the bottles in my pocket, or the truth I now had in my hands. I got into my car and drove straight to the police station. Elijah had spent his final months trying to protect me. He knew. He just didn't get the chance to finish the fight. But I would. Not out of revenge. Out of love. Out of self-respect. And out of the promise I whispered to him at his grave. You didn't die for nothing. I'll finish what you started. Because sometimes the most painful truth is this: the real danger doesn't come from strangers, but from the people who smile while quietly planning your downfall. And the strongest woman is the one who finally says, no more.